This Flash comic has an iconic cover, the kind one has to pay attention to. The giant stop speech balloon, the Flash standing out against a black backdrop, the breaking of the fourth wall direct address. There's a call to action directly to the reader. It's certainly memorable. 2025 even saw the Absolute Flash #1 get an homage variant cover drawn by the book's author Jeff Lemire referencing it. And that's not the only homage. 2004 had one by Alex Ross, when DC was honoring the late Julius Schwartz, the editor during this period of the original comic, and just a legendary DC editor overall. They did this by spotlighting some of the iconic covers, some from the era of the cover first, story after. And just since it's come up again recently, time of recording, I wanted to look at the original. But does the story inside live up to the cover? We're gonna take a look at Flash 163 and find out. I'm Sasha, this is Casually Comics, and according to this cover, we have to save the Flash. The Flash 163 was published in 1966. The story in question is the first in the issue, which has two, and it's called The Flash Stakes His Life on You. It was written by John Broome, with art by Carmine Infantino, and inks by Joe Giella. But what is the story about? With a cover like that, it could be anything. The story inside utilizes a lot of direct addresses, at least at the start. There's second person coming at you strong from the narration box. Reader, these are the facts. Never has the world's fastest human been in such a fix. His body weakened almost to the consistency of smoke or a cloud. His speed cut down to near zero. His very appearance rapidly changing and close to total disappearance. The famed Monarch of Motion, do we need to bring back Monarch of Motion as a way to describe the Flash? Learns that only you, his public, can help him. How? Well, read this gripping story and find out. How can you hope to capture me, Flash, when I can blow you away like this? I know it's supposed to be intense wind, like a whooshing sound, but because the SH isn't there in this panel, it just looks like woo. Now the story proper opens with the Flash saving a little girl's dolly. It's being washed away in the water, and we also need to note that this is a poor little girl. That will matter later. She is very grateful for the doll as her prized possession, and she says that she will never forget the Flash. A moment in the life of the Flash and an unknown little girl. Does it have any significance? Let us proceed and we shall find out. The real twist would have been if it truly had no significance. We cut to a scientist experimenting on a cat, an experiment that he says has been 10 years in the making. The cat is placed inside a special beam, and when the housekeeper shows up to feed the cat with a saucer of milk, because fiction refuses to acknowledge what happens to most cats if they drink milk, the horrific lactose intolerant milk poops, but she can't torture this cat because she doesn't remember that it exists. Triumph, the radiation worked perfectly. Now all I have to do is increase its power, work it against the Flash, and at long last, put my great plan into operation. Writer's note, not an editor's note, writer's note. If the mysterious Mr. Haddon could wait 10 years to perfect his strange radiation, perhaps you, reader, can wait a few more pages for an explanation to this startling occurrence. And what if I couldn't? Challenge accepted. Close. Oh, Silver Age radiation. Is there anything it can't do? Now, since the narration boxes are stalling for time, we cut back to the Flash, who's going about his daily life when he suddenly finds himself forgotten. You go on back to whatever costume ball you came from, mister. Go on before I run you in as a public nuisance. Flash, never heard of anybody by that name. Now get going. Beat it before you get in trouble. Trouble? Woo. Now, not only do people not recognize the Flash, which is stressful enough, he goes to people who he truly cares about, like Iris, and they have no idea who he is. But also, to make matters worse, he's starting to disappear. But even though he's actually coming apart, he still decides to try and stop a crime that he hears is in progress, because that's his purpose. And at the scene of the crime, we see our Mr. Haddon robbing a loan company. He does recognize the Flash, which at least makes Barry feel a bit less crazy. Unfortunately, though, the Flash gets blown away. Mr. Haddon blows him all the way to his laboratory. I know. Phrasing. It's a good thing the streets of Central City are apparently empty, because this must have looked incredibly odd. I can't get away from him. He's blowing me ahead of him, and I'm helpless as a soap bubble. Woo! Around this corner and into this house. Now I have you where I want you. I've brought you to my home, my laboratory, Flash, and you'll never leave here alive. Because here and now, I'm going to finish you off. The Flash is trapped, and now he has to listen to a villain monologue, and Mr. Haddon is very excited to give it. He says that if he doesn't give it, then half of the joy of succeeding would be lost. And the explanation for why what's happening to him is happening to him, outside of the questionable science, actually gets pretty deep. It's explanation time. So Mr. Haddon has created a device that spread a certain radiation over this city. The effect was immediate. It erased all memory of you from the minds of the people here. And since our own belief in ourselves is based on how others feel about us, you began at once to lose your identity. We're gonna come back to that because that's very philosophical. Your contact with reality was shattered. You began to fade away. Right now, there's only one thing that's keeping you from disappearing altogether. The fact that only one person still believes in you, namely me. But I'm about to rectify that. When I turn the radiation on myself, Flash, the last person in this city, will have ceased to believe in you. And a short while afterwards, you'll vanish completely and forever. One final word. It might interest you to know that after you're gone, I'll be far, far away, living like a king. Now, it would be very easy to make a joke about the ludicrous way that this radiation is functioning, the forget-me radiation. However, this got surprisingly philosophical. And it's the kind of thing where people who are into thinking about the nature of existence and the like could debate this. Basically, what he's proposing is the complete opposite of solipsism. It's anti-solipsism. I need to define that so that you know what it's in opposition to. And we're gonna Cliff Notes it. In Extreme Cliff Notes edition, solipsism is the idea that only the self is real, because only one's own mind and consciousness can be proven to exist. So is everything else around us a figment of our own imaginations? What is reality? Are there even other people? However, what's being discussed in this story is the more widely accepted belief that there is a true grounded reality and that consciousness is a factor, but that there's an interconnectivity going on. This is tending towards what some might call existentialism, but it's less Sartre, it's something else. This is more Husserl and phenomenology, specifically intersubjectivity, but it's taken to the extreme. Again, Cliff Notes. Paraphrasing, intersubjectivity is the idea that there's a shared understanding between individuals and that one's understanding of themselves is shaped through relationships with others. There's something really interesting when taking that philosophical concept to its extreme. The idea that if people forgot you, you would actually become unmoored and stop being, that one's own consciousness is not enough to define oneself. That's very interesting to think about. That's why I mentioned solipsism, because that would be the complete opposite. Their view would be that you only need yourself to exist, and then they'd fight. The Flash's experiences here, at least at the start, it very much reminds me of a novel called The Mustache. There's also a movie. That's a story where a man shaves off his mustache to kind of prank his wife and be like, what do you think of me without my mustache? Only to then be told by not just his wife, but everybody around him that he never had a mustache. And then the rest of the book is him trying to prove that he did, and it just descends into this really, it sounds silly, but it becomes quite dreadful and wild. Now, this Flash story does not take the concept quite so seriously. Instead, it goes more the Peter Pan route. Clap if you believe in Tinkerbell. It even adds back in the child, because of course she mattered. He has to seek her out because he remembers her saying that she would always remember him, and her belief is so strong that when he's with her, he's able to be solid. But he has to stay with her in order for this to be happening. So he has to devise a plan to let other people know that he exists. We also learn the little girl's name. It's Alice. Fortunately, in Alice's presence, I possess super speed. I'm using it to write hundreds and hundreds of leaflets, telling my story and appealing to the people to believe in me. And then, on a busy street corner, please take one and read it. It's about Flash. Stop. Read this. My life depends on it. So we did get the cover panel, and it is a bit of a direct breaking towards the reader, which is fun. Goodness, this is extraordinary. Written by the Flash, trying to get us to believe that he really exists. Now, while the return to the direct address is a nice callback to the cover page, the rest of the story, the narration boxes and the like, since part 2 have pretty much dropped the talking to you, the reader bit. As the news and the leaflets spread around Central City, their effect is swift. Why not believe in the Flash? The story he wrote sure rings true. He sold me. He deserves our support. I'm on his side. Man, I need to start a business in Central City. They'll buy anything. Their belief starts to bolster his powers back up, and now he can go and get Mr. Haddon, who told him that he was going to be living it up, so it's not too hard to find him. I wonder what happened to the radiation. Is it still out there? How is he able to target the radiation specifically towards the Flash? Because when he did the first experiment, it was around the cat and he put the cat in it. So how did he... I'm overthinking the radiation. Also, hadn't spent 10 years planning this. 10 years discovering this forget-me radiation so that he could rob one bank, essentially. It seems like a very powerful breakthrough if a bit more targeted and thought out. You could actually erase people from existence. However, it doesn't seem to work too well because he doesn't even need a flyer to remember the Flash. Vaguely in back of my mind, I remember someone called the Flash, who was a threat to me, but I also have a vague recollection that it was I who finished him off. He's dead and gone, eh? Boss, look! And so Haddon tries his backup plan, which is taking down the Flash with an ordinary gun. It fails. And since the little girl Alice was responsible for saving him, she gets a segment on TV, and everybody sees her and feels bad for her, and they donate a bunch of money for her future and education, so she will be poor no longer. Then Iris cries a single tear. The end! We did it. We saved the Flash. It would have been nice to actually see the flyer. I'm so curious what he wrote that was that convincing. The second story is an abracadabra story where he body swaps with someone in the future from his time to escape prison. So how is this story? Well, it certainly does its utmost to be as dramatic as the cover. And it does succeed in having a call to action to the reader, even if it doesn't hit it as hard in the second half of the story as the first. And it has its own internal logic, in a way, although if one starts to analyze it over much, it does fall apart a tiny bit. It's clearly going for a bit of a sweet angle, what with the young girl being there and the one who believes in the Flash. So if one gets invested in that or does find that endearing, the story will probably play a bit better. Also, if one were to read this younger, it may leave more of an impression, which it certainly seems to have done with certain creators. Hence why it was one of the covers chosen for the DC Comics Presents homages to Julius Schwartz. And those stories are very meta. The Flash ones even feature the cover being created, and also there's a story where it stops the Flash being murdered by Deadshot. So they really go back to the original, this cover's gonna save the Flash. But as mentioned, it's also the kind of story where if one thinks about it, it could very quickly fall apart. This is gonna be one where for some it's gonna be a lot of fun, and for others it could just be too silly. It does have some standout fun moments. A highlight for me is the Flash being blown down the street to the villain's lab. And of course, the easy acceptance of the people of Central City, because a man in a bright red costume and a little girl handed them some leaflets. It is an interesting story if one engages with it on a philosophical level. Personally, for me, it's not one I'm gonna forget. But what about you? Where does it land for you? Do you remember it? Had you read it before? Do you feel like it lives up to the cover? Do you feel like it could have done more? Do you want to hear about the issue it inspired? Is it too silly for your blood? Do you just want to talk about philosophy now? I know, it was so Cliff Notes. You can get deep down in the comments. And while you're down there, please do all the YouTube things. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit that bell notification so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much for taking some time today to spend discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.